Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webcast tonight with Dalton Trail Lodge. I'm Chris Hunt with Hatch Adventure Travel. I'm joined by my partner Earl Harper at the bottom of your screen, and we are joined by our special guest tonight, Hardy Roof, who is the owner and manager of Dalton Trail Lodge, south of Haines Junction in the Yukon. And Hardy, welcome. How are you? How are things at the lodge? I'm assuming it's still a little bit chilly.
It is, yeah. It's actually, I'm looking out the window here and I see a frozen lake. So we're still still have ice on the lake, but not for much longer. And things are progressing. We're in the full swing preparing for the upcoming season. First guest gonna check in on May 26th, so that's just around the corner.
Yeah, less than a month.
Mhm.
Hard to believe that people will be up there getting some fishing in. I was lucky enough to come and visit you last August for a few days, and I had just a great time. I came up to do to do a writing project for Hatch Magazine, which is one of our partner organizations here at the travel company. And you and I sat down and we decided, let's see if we can't bring some more folks up. And we have been since about October or November selling trips into Dalton Trail Lodge for our clients at Hatch Adventure Travel. And so far, we've got a bunch of excited anglers who have yet to make the trip, but they're going to come up later this summer. And we wanted to sit down with you and just kind of get your take on the lodge and the fishing and what makes the Yukon somewhat unique. It's not one of those places a lot of people think about when they think about trophy trout angling or fishing of any kind. Really, it's more like a lot of people think about pike and grayling, and that doesn't really seem to move the needle much. But you guys have also an amazing lake trout fishery that does pull in folks from all around the world because it is particularly unique in that it moves up those rivers and streams to spawn toward the end of summer. So maybe start us off with what May looks like, and let's talk a little bit about what things looks like in the Yukon.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Well, we're in a pretty unique situation here. We're bordering a national park. It's called Kluane, and that with breathtaking scenery, but also fantastic fishery for grayling, kokanee, and lake trout. But our unique situation here, as I think the biggest advantage of our lodge is that we have access to more than one lake. Like we got beautiful Destiash Lake here right at our doorstep, but we can also access within hour, more than 20 other lakes and rivers. So that makes it kind of unique. We can send only, like if you go to a fishing with a guide of ours, you be only always by yourself. You never have to share the lake with somebody else. So that is pretty unique that we can spread out our clients to all those different locations. Now, if we want to go through the season, like May is usually best for end of May, June, I should say, because really it starts at the end of May, is really very, very good for lake fishing. Um, Especially thinking about for the fly fishermen for pike. Pike is awesome fly fishing in early season. I mean, we have lakes. We can take you're catching nonstop pike like 1,500 if you want to, and big pike as well, trophy size pike, and the trophy pike is like 45, 43 or 44 inches, and yeah, that's right. That here in front in our home lake, as well as in other lakes where we have, for example, outpost cabins. Like I'm thinking Asiac Lake, which is a huge 70, 80 kilometer, that would be about 50, 60 mile long lake, and we got a beautiful cabin there, and the pike fishing in there in spring is just unbelievable. But in that lake also the lake trout fishing, for example, in June is fantastic also for the fly fishermen, because the lake trout are in the shallow areas feeding on whitefish, so they're easy accessible for the fly fishermen. They're in maybe 6 to 10 feet of depth, and we know the spots where they are. So that offers fantastic lake trout fishing. Grayling, they're good all season long, like in usually the river fishing mid of June to early July is in some places it slows down a bit because the water tables are fairly high, but there's always rivers that are an exception, where you can fish for them all year long. Like, for example, the whole outlet of Destiash Lake that's called 6 Mile. That offers fantastic grayling fishing all season long. And then July, end of June, early July, the lakes start to warm up. That means in the bigger lakes, the lake trout go deep, and they're going to be hard to access for fly fishing, but not in our home lake. Destiash Lake is very unique. It's only 24 feet deep, so the lake trout, they cannot escape down in the deep to find their preferred water temperature. So what they do, we have a bunch of creeks from the surrounding mountains that bring cold snow and glacier melt water into the lake, and they all concentrate and spool up in front of those creeks. And what you see that, for example, in the opening video, that's from the home lake here. The lake trout are in 4 or 5 feet of water, very close to the creek mouth, so easily accessible for the fly fishermen. And it is actually the only way to catch them with a fly rod. Then moving on into later part of July and August, the water in the rivers goes down, and it offers fantastic fly fishing for the rainbow trout and grayling in Kathleen River, Mush Creek, and in a whole bunch of other creeks. So that is really mid of July to the end of September is the preferred river fishing time for the fly fishermen. Adding to that, like end of August, the lake trout start moving into the rivers, in some of the rivers to spawn, and they school up in big numbers, and there's a lot of fun fishing for them. Basically a quick run through the season, but I always say fishing is good. When I go to a sportsman show, for example, the people always ask me, what is the best time? When should we come? Like it is, fishing is basically good all season long. You gotta go maybe to a different lake or to a different river, but there's always good fishing, be that fly fishing or any other fishing.
Nice. So Hardy, is there rainbow trout up there? And what's the fishing like?
Yes, we have a fantastic rainbow fishery in the Kathleen lake and river system. We run a jet boat on that river, and they're not world record rainbow trout, but they're a nice size. They're getting into the 60 centimeters. What's that in inches? 20, 25 to 28 inches anyway. And they're very plentiful, and they're strong fish because they're all natural fish. There's in the whole Yukon, there's no hatchery fish. All the fish we have are natural, and there's a natural selection, so they're very strong fish.
Is that dry fly fishing or mostly streamer fishing, or?
It is actually both. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. In the Kathleen Lake, I would say maybe in the lake I fish more streamer fishing, like woolly buggers. In the river you can do that as well, but there's great dry fly fishing for the rainbow trout.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we have the same places where we have the rainbow trout. We also have the kokanee salmon, which is a very unique fish. It's a kind of a salmon that doesn't go back to the ocean anymore, but also naturally. It's not planted there or not introduced there. It's been there naturally, so that is very rare.
Artie, your location in the south of Haines Junction there puts you within striking distance of the Chilkat River system and out of Haines, Alaska, correct? You can get to the get into later in the summer. You can get into salmon and char fishing in Alaska from the lodge.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and we have quite a few clients that do that. And that's a trip they can do on their own. They can take a car from us and drive down there. It's about a 2-hour drive, and it's a very, very scenic drive. You drive through the coastal mountains down to the Pacific, very, very scenic. And then you fish the Chilkoot River. There is first in July there is sockeye salmon in there. And then later in July, all the way into September, there's a lot of humpies in there, followed by coho salmon later in September. And we also do have salmon fishing closer here in the Yukon in the Touch-and-Chinny River. Only that fishery, it used to be really, really good king salmon fishery in there, but as probably most of you know, or all of you know, that the king salmon fishery went quite a bit downhill on the west coast. So whatever comes up, we leave alone, and we basically start fishing in the Touch-and-Chinny in mid of August for sockeye salmon, and then in September for cohos.
So we have a question from a viewer, Hardy. His name Jeffrey Terrell is asking us, for someone new to fly fishing, what weight rods should they bring with them to Dalton Trail Lodge if they chose to come up?
Okay, first of all, if you're a beginner and you're not sure whether that's going to be the thing for you, you might not want to buy all the equipment right away, because we are a Vision endorsed lodge, and we have very good fly fishing gear that our clients can use at no extra cost. That's included in our packages. So you might just want to buy one and then use the other ones from us. Basically, what you need is, for the smaller species like grayling and dollies, rainbows, you would need a 4 to 6 weight rod that covers that. I personally I like to fish with a 4 weight. It's a lot of fun, and the lighter the rod, the more action you get, the more fun. Then basically the next rod you would need is anything between 7 and 9 weight. So, and then what I usually do when I go fishing, I take my 4 with that's equipped with a floating line, and then I take my 8 with a sinking line, and then you basically have everything covered.
What about if someone wanted to come up and kind of try to do everything all at once? Is it possible? And I know it is to some extent, because I was able to do it in August, but you said the pike tend to go deep. When do they start to come back? And is it at the same time when there are lake trout and grayling accessible?
Didn't quite get that. You're asking about the pike?
Yeah.
Yeah. The pike, the pike never go really all that deep. The pike are accessible for the fly fishermen year round. But they're really, really aggressive the first part of the season, all of June. They're really aggressive because they come out of hibernation, so to speak, and they just spawned, and now they're really hungry, and they're absolutely crazy feeding, and then they're in the very shallow for spawning. You find them in like two, sometimes one, and then they stay there for quite a while. And then they maybe end of June, they move into 10 to 20 feet maximum of water. So they're accessible year round. but they're most aggressive in June, and they're the heaviest and biggest in September. But having said that, and there's in September, there is towards the end of September, middle to end of September, there is a time frame where they start to get really aggressive again, because they feel winter is coming and the food will not be available in big numbers anymore. So they like to munch up again in the later part of September. They're usually very big and heavy, but not as aggressive as in June. It takes more casts to get one of them big boys, but we catch big trophies every fall, so that's about it. Yeah, but you catch them all season long.
For someone interested in coming up, how difficult is it to get to Whitehorse and then get to the lodge? Is it take quite a bit of an effort? We have some folks that are interested from coming from abroad, from Europe. What kind of efforts do they need to make and is it terribly inconvenient or is it doable?
No, actually for Europeans, it's almost easier to get to the lodge than to somebody from the States, for example. There's a weekly flight, charter flight from Condor, that's a German carrier, and that flies every Sunday from Frankfurt to Whitehorse, nonstop. And so they're sitting 8 hours in the plane. They never have to change the plane, and we'll pick them up at the airport. And they get, for somebody from the East Coast, for example, it's a lot longer trip. You first got to get to Vancouver, and then you got to change plane and get from Vancouver. But even from the States, it's easy. There's daily 4 or 5 planes from Vancouver to Whitehorse. There's planes from Edmonton, from Calgary to Whitehorse. So you just got to go to fly from the States to one of either Calgary, Edmonton, or Vancouver, and then switch plane and come up. So it's not terribly hard. And once you're in Whitehorse, it's a 2-hour drive to the lodge.
Okay.
And some people they choose to stay overnight in Vancouver just to break it up a bit, and others they want to get it all done and in one day, and whatever the personal preference.
Gotcha.
Well, one quick question, Artie, just for people that want to travel with maybe a non-angler, is there other things to do around the area?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned earlier we're bordering a national park. The scenery is unbelievable, and there's a lot of hiking trails that people can go on their own. We got, for example, electric mountain bikes they can use to go on some trails. We have a friend of mine operates a gold mine in the mountains, so that's a trip a lot of people like to do. It's about a 2-hour ATV ride through the mountains to get to that mine, and then they can wash some gold and keep whatever they find. So that's quite a popular trip. Or they can go on a canoe trip, and let's also not forget, if it's, for example, a couple and one of them is fishing and the other isn't, it's a lot of fun, because a lot of our tours, getting there is half the fun, like to give you an example, Rain Lake, it's a beautiful mountain lake. That's again, we access that with ATVs. It's about an hour ATV ride to get to that lake. So there's a lot to see, and there's a good chance to see wildlife, and there's buffaloes up there, there's bears up there, there's a lot of wildlife you can see and take pictures. It's an adventure, so it's not only just fishing. Of course we do that too, like it all depends on the
That's most important, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, if the partner wants to join the fishing trip, they have plenty to see, and not getting too bored.
Right.
So
sorry, Chris. I was saying, can you talk a little bit about the lodge and what the lodge is like and how many people can go? And
Yes. So we have a total of 21 rooms, some of them in the main lodge, and then others in cabins around on the shore of the lake here. So we could technically we can accommodate about 35. I think we got about 35 beds, but we never have that many guests because there's a lot of people that travel on their own, and so and it's also that we don't not only have fishermen here, we also get people here for hiking or for mushroom picking or people that only stay a couple 3 nights and on a round trip. So we probably have at the most like 16 fishermen at the time here at the lodge. And then the lodge has a fully licensed bar. We have a nice dining room, and we got 2 very, very good chefs. One of them is my son-in-law, and they produce like real. I mean, you read that in every lodge, or everybody's always claims they have gourmet food, but we really have gourmet food. Like you get our guests get every night they get a 4-course dinner, and Chris, you've been there. It's pretty good, like that's definitely something where we don't like to save some money. Our kitchen has orders to put only the best on, and that's what they do. They put on a pretty good show. Yeah, also, I like to mention, people catching a fish, and like we basically we are a catch and release lodge, but we, like our clients can eat as many fish while they're here as they want. We just don't like them to take any home just because they grow so slow up here, and we want to protect what we have. But like people can bring home a fish, and then the chefs prepared them as an extra starter for dinner, and that's a lot of people do that. So that's quite nice.
I can attest to the meals, Earl. And Hardy, you don't know this, but Earl, he out eats me, and I'm twice his size.
Food is very, very, very important to me.
Yeah, but it's
that's important to everybody. Like that. I think and also the lodge is very, very clean. I have to say that too. We're rated 4.5 stars by Canada Select, and that's quite high out of 5. Like the only reason we don't have 5 is because not every room has a TV, and that's good. So, but it's very clean, it's very comfortable, and but we have Wi-Fi. The lodge has Wi-Fi, so people can get on their phones, and there's TV in the living room. If people want to watch a game. So. And we got a games room too, talking about that with a pool table and foosball. And of course, we got a little tackle store up there with a good selection of flies. And
Speaking of that, do people have to bring their own flies, or do your guides supply flies, or
well,
and bringing them?
They can bring their own, or they can buy them here at the lodge. The guides always have some flies with them, and they can use the guides. But then, of course, the tip them, if they tip them, that should reflect that, because the guides have to buy them. Right. But like most people, what they do, and once they know where they're going and what species they're going to target the next day, they come and see me in the tackle shop, and I'll show them what we would exactly, and then they say, "Oh, I have that. That's good," or they maybe want to buy the one or the other. Yeah. And that's also a thing. I haven't talked about that yet. Every evening after dinner, or before or after dinner, usually I try to get that in when people meet in the bar before dinner. I'll talk to every one of our clients and ask them what they would like to do the next day, and then we plan that. So it's not that our clients have to book in advance. I want to go and do this, and that and that, because they don't even know what that is. It has a name. It says Kathleen River or it says Marsh Lake, but if you haven't been here before, you don't know what that means, and how it looks like. So I'll talk to them and see what they would like to do, and then we'll try to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you've been running the lodge for more than 40 years, and you've got your family involved. Tell us how you came across the Dalton Trail Lodge and how it ended up in your hands.
Well, I went as a young man. I went fishing. I flew over and fished in Canada, in Ontario, and I right away fell in love with the country and the fishing here. Coming from Switzerland, where everything is crowded and half the population fishes. Like you have to fight for a fishing spot. So I was very impressed, and then I started to look for something, and then I took a couple times. I rented a camper and just did some exploring trips to Alaska, Northwest Territories, BC. And we right away fell in love with the Yukon because it was the least developed of all the undeveloped world here, like it was the wildest. And that's kind of what we were looking for. And I know that Hens Junction area, we loved that because of the mountains and everything. So my wife and I, we went to the bar and had a few drinks there with the locals. And what are you doing here? I said, I'd like to look in kind of a place to buy. And then it happened that the caretaker of the lodge here was in the bar, and I was drinking beer with. So I said, I might have the place you're looking for, because the lodge here was abandoned for, I don't know, 6-7 years before it was built in the 70s, but only operated for 5-6 years, and then they had some family drama, and then it was empty, and they had always had a caretaker that looked after the place, and that was the guy I met over a beer, and he then connected me with the owner, and they were glad they could, and we were happy to buy it. So.
Got a question, actually 2 questions from one of our longtime friends, Todd Tanner, who runs the School of Trout on the Henry's Fork every year, Hardy. And Todd lives in Montana, so he's going to ask the obvious question first. What's the grizzly bear situation like, and is it safe?
Yeah, we have a Kluane National Park. Actually, I think has what I read has the highest grizzly bear density in all of North America. So there are grizzly bears around. There's about 6,000 in the Yukon and about 20,000 black bears. So almost as many as people. But our bears, they're like because they live in the wild, they're not getting very close to civilization. They're still very normal acting bears, that if they see a person, they take off. And yes, the chances is most people want to see one. You want to see them from a safe point, like being in a boat or being in the car. Maybe not necessarily when you walk a small trail to the lake and one comes, but like. Our guides, they're educated. They know what to do in bear encounters. Most of them carry a weapon where we are allowed. We're, for example, not allowed to have a gun in the park. That's just the law. But then, if we don't have a gun, we make sure we have plenty of bear spray with us, and we know how to use it. And I can say that I'm operating the lodge almost 40 years. We never, ever had an accident with a bear. We had a few people that were a little bit scared when they came home, especially when they went out on their own and didn't know what to do, but usually it's the bear that is more scared of us than the other way around. I find that most problem bears, they're like more further south where they're used to civilization, you know. But here, when they see a human, they take off, because we're their only. They get hunted up here, so we're their only enemy, basically. So, but it's definitely something nobody has to fear, and you know, like if you go really deep into bear country, which would be in Kluane National Park, you be with a guide, you know, like we don't let anybody going in there on their own, and everywhere else, it's very, very, you know, you might see a black bear running along the shore or something, but it's definitely not a danger. And as I said, if people are worried about it, then go out with a guide, and then you're for sure you're safe. Then, you know.
Yeah. The next question that Todd had, and I can answer it to some extent, was what was the dry fly fishing like for grayling and rainbows? And when I was there last August, I had really good dry fly fishing for grayling. I didn't get into any rainbows. But maybe talk a little bit about that, and where anglers might be able to get into grayling from Dalton Trail Lodge and rainbows.
Yes. So the grayling fishing is every river, every creek we have has grayling. You know, some smaller, some bigger. You know, and the grayling, they're, for me, the best fish for dry fly fishing, because, you know, they're, first of all, they're active all day long. They're not like I remember my time back in Switzerland when I was fishing, you know, like you had to be at the river at 5:30 and at 8 o'clock it was over, you know, like here the grayling you can catch all day long, and especially on dry flies. What we use for dry flies, it's a little bit not what should I say, a purist fly, but the Chernobyl ants, they're the best, you know, like they're so awesome. And they never get wet. You can fish them all day till they fall apart, you know. So that's our favorite dry fly. Mayflies work very well on some creeks, duns, stonefly, you know. And that's the same goes for the rainbow trout. And the rainbow trout, as I think I mentioned that earlier, we have basically in two river systems. One is the Tachancini River, where we fish for salmon in the fall, and the other is the Kathleen system, and that includes a lake. It's called Louise Lake, and then there's a river piece between Louise and Kathleen Lake that we wade. It's just awesome. One pool after the other, and it's just loaded with nice 20-inch. 21-inch grayling. That's not average. Those are the big grayling. But you know, like probably an average size of 16, 17 inches. So the nice fish. And then the Kathleen Lake itself has a lot of creeks that come in, which that offer fabulous grayling fishing, as well as also rainbows, and there's also lake trout in those. So some places, like one is called Goat Creek that flows in. You can first fish for grayling, and then when you're done with that, you take a sinking line, put a woolly bugger on, and then you can catch some lake trout or rainbows, and so there's several creeks in there, but also the lake itself, you know, it has some protected shallow bays. The fish rise in there like crazy. So this is, I find the hardest dry fly fishing is on the lake, you know, when you have no current, because the fish are very spooky there. So you gotta really sneak up on them and cast fairly long, but a lot of fun and big fish, you know. And then the outlet of that Kathleen Lake is called the Kathleen River, which is again a system of river, small lake, river, small lake. And I don't know, Chris, if you did that. Did you go with the jet boat down that is such an awesome trip.
Well, I didn't take the boat, but I did walk and wade.
Okay, but we go with the jet boat. We go down through. There's first lower Kathleen Lake, and then there's Rainbow Lake, and then there's Crescent Lake, and there's always a river part in between, and just loaded with especially rainbows down there. And yeah, that's a lot of fun. And the rainbows, you can do. They come for the dry fly. We have some of the biggest rainbows on dry flies, but also definitely woolly buggers work very well on them. White, red, black, hook size maybe 4, 6, 8 in that neighborhood. So,
Yeah. Cool.
You had mentioned that Switzerland, you start at 5:30 in the morning. So what time do you guys typically start up there? And what's your day like? Do you have breakfast at the same time?
Actually, when I meant that from Switzerland, I meant the evening for the evening hatch.
Oh, evening. Oh, okay.
But I know people in Switzerland, they're crazy. They go fishing at 4 o'clock and they want to be the first. If you not go at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you got all the people that come swimming and walking their dogs and this and that, playing with the dogs in the river, then you can pack and go home. Here, we usually leave the lodge at 8 and we come home around 5:30 in the afternoon, and then what a lot of our guests do, then they come in the bar, you have a drink, you have dinner, and after dinner you can walk down here to the lake right in front of my house. Here there's a creek running into the lake. It's 50 yards from where I'm sitting, and that creek is loaded with grayling. And then in the summer, when the lake gets warm, it's also loaded. There's I bet you 1,000 or more big lake trout in front of that creek. So that's usually the evening entertainment after dinner. If you didn't have enough, if your arms don't hurt too much, people go down there and fish a little bit more. That's the nice thing too. In July, you can fish down there till midnight or so, as long as you want.
Right.
Like,
Stays light a lot longer for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds like a perfect opportunity to smoke a cigar.
Yeah, that's it. Smoke a cigar and have a drink and do a few casts. There's a bench down there. You can sit and watch your friend casting while you smoke your cigar. It's a lot of fun.
If you were considering a trip to Dalton Trail Lodge and for the very first time, when would you recommend coming up? What week of the year would you say? They're all great. Fish are here all the time, but this is the week. This is the week I'd rather go.
It's good. It doesn't matter. Whenever it fits your schedule best. Like you'll catch a lot of fish anytime. If you're more if you just want to do river fishing, it would be August, September, and if you want to do a little bit of everything, especially, for example, the pike and the lake trout in the shallow water, then I would do June or earlier part of July.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And your season ends in end of September, or?
Right. Yeah.
We have one final question. It has to do with mosquitoes and black flies. What's the level of testing?
Okay. I just had an email actually years ago from a client who asked about the black flies. He's coming in June, and I think he's from Ontario, and he was reading that there's black flies in the Yukon are in the fall. And he said, I can't believe that, that can't be right. And I said, yeah, it's right. It's true. Like we a lot of places have the black flies in June, but we have them in August, September. We have the mosquitoes in June. So now how bad are they? Like, I had once, tell you a story. I had once a couple from New York, and the woman was allergic to mosquitoes, and she booked the trip to the lodge, and that was definitely not the right thing to do, if you're allergic to it. But the mosquito situation is never really bad, like every 10 year we maybe get a year where we have more. It all depends in basically how spring goes. If we have a wet, cold spring, you're going to have more mosquitoes. If the snow melts fast and it dries up fast, we have very little mosquitoes. Like for example, I think 2 years ago, I don't think we saw a single bottle of mosquito dope. Like it was just there was just none around. And then it's also it depends where you are. If you're on the boat, or if you're like along the lake, it's usually a little breeze, then they're not bad. Even if there's plenty around, then they're not that bad. And it's also the time of the day; they're more active towards the evening, not really when you're fishing. So it like it's not bad. The black flies in the fall, yeah, they can be a little bit a pain in the neck, but again, it's in September, for example, it's getting a little cooler. You're dressed. You're not fishing in a t-shirt. Like you have a good outdoor gear on, and whatever sticks out, you put a little bit of mosquito dope on, and you're good. Like it's I very rarely see somebody up here with a mosquito net over their head. It's just, I can't say that there aren't any. Like, yes, we have both of them. They're part of nature. They're also fish food too. Like, let's not forget that.
Yep.
And you just got to dress right. And for example, the fly fishermen too, they have waders on. So there's really only your hands and your head sticking out, and then if you put a little bit of dope on that, then it's not bad at all.
Right.
One last question we just got in. An angler wants to know if you can fish for lake trout without using a sinking line. And I think I know the answer, but I'll let you take it.
I don't think so. I have never. One guy claimed in those 40 years he caught a lake trout on a dry fly, and I still don't believe it to the day that he did. No.
But you don't need a sinking line.
Having said that, you could, like you could with a floating line, a long leader, and if you put some wire, the leader, if they're in 5 foot of water, like in that particular bay or down by the creek, if you have a weighted fly streamer and put a little bit wire around, you might get away with it, but I don't think that's the right way to go. I would say if you fish for lake trout in the use sink tip, or an intermediate, for example, works good. But even the intermediate, you need a pretty heavy weighted fly. And when you fish with sink tip, maybe 10, 12 feet of sinking is good enough. And then it also depends where you fish, and then there's other, like for example Kathleen Lake, where it goes down like very steep, there you want to have a teeny 200 or a teeny 300 that gets you down fast, so it totally depends on the situation. But generally I don't think a floating line would be the right line for lake trout.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. I think, unless we have more questions, I think we've covered everything. And we're about 45 minutes in, and this kind of seems to be about the sweet spot for time for us. But anything else that you'd like to share with viewers? And keep in mind, this will be live on our Facebook page and our YouTube pages in perpetuity. So more folks will continue to watch this. Is there anything that we haven't covered, Hardy, that we should?
No, I think we talked about pretty much everything: the fishing, the food. Oh, well, we didn't quite cover all the species. Like we also have Dolly Varden, for example. We didn't touch that yet. There's one particular lake, and that has quite nice 22-inch Dolly Varden, and they're beautiful fish. They're all orange, red, and they're only in that one lake. Well, they're also in the Tachancini River, but those are different looking fish. But in that Stella Lake, it's a little lake where we have a boat. People can go there on their own. It's about a 300-yard hike to the lake, and we got a boat there. And it's just fantastic fishing for them, especially in June and September. They're a little bit not so active, dormant when it's hot, so they're better in early season and late season. So we didn't cover that. And we also have ink canoe, which is a huge whitefish, but it's a long trip to get there, and it's not very what should I say? Call that? It's a hit and missing. Like you can go there and they're there, and you catch a few. But you can also go and they're not there, and then you maybe catch a few pike instead because they're in the same area. But we also have that. And we have whitefish, a lot of whitefish too that are that we usually that are best caught with little copper nymphs. That's fun. They get big too. Yeah. So lots of options, lots of different places, and yeah.
Well, I had on my short visit last summer, I had an excellent time, and maybe it's because I didn't know what I was doing, but I did manage to catch some lake trout in the Kathleen River outlet without using a sinking line. I did have a heavy streamer on.
Oh, well, that's it is. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it helps
also,
what you're doing.
Yeah. No, you can catch them with a floating line, but then you need to get down to them. They're not coming up.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, folks, if you want to visit the Yukon and you want to visit Dalton Trail Lodge, it's something I highly recommend. I had a great time doing it. Visit us at hatch.travel/Yukon, and we'll get you set up for a week or even 3 or 4 or 5 days with Hardy and the team at Dalton Trail Lodge. You'll have a wonderful time. They're great hosts. The hospitality is unmatched, and the fishing is amazing. And Earl was kind enough to ask and point out that it's not just a fishing trip. If you have a spouse or someone who wants to do something different, the lodge offers all kinds of other activities for non-anglers. So don't let that be a sticking point for you. Again, just let us know and we'll make it work. And Hardy, thank you very much for making the time. I know you're busy getting the lodge set up for the season. Please say hi to Jackie and the family, and have a great year. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. That was fun.
Thank you, Hardy.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.